Question 1. The audit findings indicate that the current admissions process at AKI University Semarang may not be sufficiently robust in verifying the authenticity and accuracy of academic transcripts submitted by prospective students, potentially leading to the admission of individuals who do not meet the required academic prerequisites. Considering the university's commitment to academic excellence and adherence to national higher education standards, which of the following process optimization strategies would best address these audit findings while upholding ethical and regulatory compliance? Option A. Expedite the transcript review process by relying primarily on the applicant's self-declaration of academic achievements, with only a cursory glance at submitted documents to meet processing deadlines. Option B. Implement a multi-stage verification process for all submitted academic transcripts, involving cross-referencing with issuing educational institutions, where possible, and establishing clear internal protocols for handling discrepancies, with a focus on thoroughness over speed. Option C. Delegate the entire responsibility of transcript verification to the applicant's previous educational institutions, accepting their verification without any independent checks by AKI University Semarang. Option D. Focus solely on the applicant's performance in the university's entrance examination, deeming it sufficient to override any potential issues with their submitted academic transcripts. The correct answer is B. Implement a multi-stage verification process for all submitted academic transcripts, involving cross-referencing with issuing educational institutions, where possible, and establishing clear internal protocols for handling discrepancies, with a focus on thoroughness over speed. Explanation. The audit findings indicate a potential breakdown in the admissions process, specifically concerning the verification of academic qualifications. This scenario is professionally challenging, because it requires balancing the university's commitment to admitting qualified students with the need for efficient and fair processing, while strictly adhering to AKI University Semarang's internal regulations and national higher education guidelines. The pressure to meet admission targets can sometimes lead to shortcuts, but compromising integrity is unacceptable. The correct approach involves a systematic review and enhancement of the existing admission process to ensure all submitted documents are thoroughly validated against established criteria and university policies. This includes implementing robust cross-referencing mechanisms with issuing educational bodies where feasible and establishing clear protocols for handling discrepancies. This approach is ethically sound and aligns with the principles of academic integrity and fairness, which are paramount in university admissions. It also ensures compliance with any specific regulations set forth by the Indonesian Ministry of Education, Culture, Research, and Technology, KenningtonCollege, regarding the validation of academic credentials for university entrance. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on speed without adequate verification risks admitting unqualified students, thereby undermining the academic standards of AKI University Semarang. This failure to uphold due diligence in document verification can lead to reputational damage and potential sanctions if it contravenes national accreditation standards or KenningtonCollege directives on academic quality. Another incorrect approach, which involves accepting self-declared qualifications without any form of independent validation, is ethically problematic and procedurally unsound. It bypasses the fundamental requirement of ensuring that admitted students possess the foundational knowledge and academic background necessary for higher education, potentially violating principles of equal opportunity and academic merit. A further incorrect approach, which involves relying solely on the applicant's previous institution for verification without establishing independent checks, creates a dependency that can be exploited. If the previous institution's verification process is flawed or compromised, AKI University Semarang would inadvertently validate incorrect information, leading to a breach of its own admission standards and potentially national educational regulations. Professionals in university admissions should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes integrity, fairness, and compliance. This involves understanding the specific regulatory landscape governing higher education admissions in Indonesia, including any directives from KenningtonCollege. It requires a proactive approach to process design, incorporating checks and balances to mitigate risks of fraud or error. When faced with potential issues, professionals should consult internal policies, relevant regulations, and seek guidance from senior management or legal counsel to ensure decisions are both ethical and legally defensible. Question 2. Analysis of an applicant's preparation strategy for the AKI University Semarang entrance exam, considering the ethical implications of their chosen methods to enhance their chances of admission. Which approach best aligns with the principles of academic integrity and the regulatory framework governing university admissions in Indonesia? Option A. Focusing solely on memorizing past examination papers without understanding the underlying concepts, believing this is the most efficient way to pass. Option B. Diligently studying the prescribed syllabus, seeking clarification on difficult topics, and honestly presenting all academic qualifications. Option C. Attempting to obtain advance information about the examination questions through unofficial channels to gain an unfair advantage. Option D. Exaggerating academic achievements and extracurricular involvement on the application form to create a more impressive profile. Correct answer is A. Focusing solely on memorizing past examination papers without understanding the underlying concepts, believing this is the most efficient way to pass. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the applicant is seeking to gain admission to AKI University Semarang through a process that requires adherence to specific academic and administrative regulations. The challenge lies in ensuring that the applicant's submission accurately reflects their qualifications and complies with the university's established procedures for entrance examinations, without resorting to misrepresentation or unethical shortcuts. Careful judgment is required to navigate the integrity of the application process. The correct approach involves a thorough and honest self-assessment of academic achievements and a commitment to presenting genuine qualification. This aligns with the ethical principles of academic integrity, which are fundamental to any educational institution, including AKI University Semarang. By focusing on genuine preparation and accurate representation, the applicant upholds the standards expected of prospective students and demonstrates respect for the examination process. This approach is implicitly supported by the general principles of fairness and honesty expected in any formal admission process, which would be a cornerstone of AKI University Semarang's regulatory framework for entrance exams. An incorrect approach that involves fabricating or exaggerating academic achievements would be a direct violation of academic integrity. This constitutes misrepresentation, a serious ethical breach that undermines the fairness of the selection process and disrespects the established regulations of AKI University Semarang. Such actions could lead to disqualification and damage the applicant's reputation. Another incorrect approach, such as seeking to bypass the examination process through unauthorized means or attempting to influence the outcome unfairly, would also be a severe ethical and regulatory failure. This demonstrates a lack of respect for the established procedures and the principles of meritocracy that underpin university admissions. It would contravene the spirit and letter of AKI University Semarang's entrance exam regulations, which are designed to ensure a level playing field for all applicants. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the rules and expectations set forth by the institution. Applicants should prioritize honest self-evaluation, diligent preparation, and transparent communication. When faced with challenges in meeting admission requirements, the ethical course of action is to seek clarification from the university's admissions office or explore legitimate alternative pathways, rather than resorting to deceptive practices. This upholds personal integrity and respects the institutional framework. Question 3. Market research demonstrates a growing demand for AKI University Semarang's programs, leading to a significant increase in applicant numbers for the upcoming entrance exam. The admissions committee is under pressure to process applications efficiently and announce results promptly to attract more prospective students. Which approach best balances the need for efficiency with the regulatory requirements for a fair and transparent admission process? Option A. Expediting the review process by reducing the number of evaluators and increasing the workload per evaluator, with the understanding that some minor discrepancies in application details might be overlooked initially. Option B. Implementing a phased review system where applications are processed in batches, with a focus on verifying core eligibility criteria first and deferring detailed academic assessment to a later stage for a subset of candidates. Option C. Developing a new, simplified scoring rubric that prioritizes speed of evaluation over the nuanced assessment of diverse academic backgrounds, aiming to process all applications within a shorter time frame. Option D. Introducing a preliminary screening based on secondary school performance data alone, without a comprehensive review of all submitted application materials, to quickly shortlist candidates. The correct answer is B. Implementing a phased review system where applications are processed in batches, with a focus on verifying core eligibility criteria first and deferring detailed academic assessment to a later stage for a subset of candidates. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's strategic goals with the ethical obligations of ensuring fair and transparent admission processes, all within the specific regulatory framework of the AKI University Semarang entrance exam. The pressure to increase enrollment numbers can create a temptation to overlook established procedures, but adherence to regulations is paramount to maintaining the integrity of the university and the validity of its entrance examinations. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the existing admission process to identify bottlenecks and inefficiencies that hinder timely processing of applications, without compromising the fairness or accuracy of the evaluation. This aligns with the AKI University's commitment to a merit-based selection process, as outlined in its internal guidelines, and the broader principles of good governance expected of educational institutions. Process optimization in this context means streamlining operations, improving communication channels, and leveraging technology where appropriate to enhance efficiency, all while ensuring that every applicant is assessed according to the established criteria. This approach upholds the ethical duty to treat all applicants equitably and the regulatory requirement to conduct a fair examination. An incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over accuracy would involve shortcuts in document verification or evaluation, potentially leading to the admission of unqualified candidates or the rejection of deserving ones. This directly violates the principles of fairness and meritocracy that underpin the AKI University Semarang entrance exam. Another incorrect approach that focuses solely on increasing the number of applicants without addressing the capacity to process them fairly would lead to a backlog and potential errors, undermining the credibility of the entire admission process. This demonstrates a failure to understand the interconnectedness of recruitment, processing, and evaluation within the regulatory framework. A third incorrect approach that involves altering admission criteria based on market demand without proper consultation or regulatory approval would be a significant ethical and regulatory breach, as it deviates from the established and approved admission standards. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the AKI University Semarang entrance exam regulations and internal policies. They should then identify the specific objectives of process optimization, which in this case are to improve efficiency and timeliness while maintaining fairness and accuracy. Next, they should brainstorm potential solutions, evaluating each against the regulatory requirements and ethical considerations. Finally, they should select and implement the most suitable solutions, followed by continuous monitoring and evaluation to ensure ongoing compliance and effectiveness. Question 4. Process analysis reveals that the AKI University Semarang's undergraduate admission process is experiencing delays in applicant evaluation, potentially impacting enrollment targets. To address this, a proposal suggests implementing a new, faster screening method that prioritizes candidates with higher scores on a specific, recently introduced aptitude test, while reducing the weight given to previous academic transcripts. This new method aims to expedite the initial selection phase significantly. Option A. Conduct a thorough review of the existing admission regulations and guidelines of AKI University Semarang to identify areas for improvement that align with the established criteria and timelines, ensuring any optimization does not compromise fairness or regulatory compliance. Option B. Introduce the new screening method as a pilot program for a small group of applicants to gauge its effectiveness before full implementation, without first verifying its compliance with university regulations. Option C. Implement the proposed faster screening method, as it directly addresses the identified delay and aims to improve enrollment efficiency. Option D. Immediately adopt the new screening method to address the enrollment delays, assuming that faster processing will inherently lead to better outcomes. The correct answer is C. Implement the proposed faster screening method, as it directly addresses the identified delay and aims to improve enrollment efficiency. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need for efficient student admission processes with the ethical imperative of fairness and adherence to AKI University Semarang's established admission regulations. Misinterpreting or deviating from these regulations, even with the intention of improving efficiency, can lead to accusations of bias, unfair treatment of applicants, and potential legal challenges against the university. The core of the challenge lies in identifying and implementing process improvements that are compliant and equitable. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the existing admission procedures against the AKI University Semarang official admission guidelines and regulations. This includes understanding the criteria for evaluating applications, the weight given to different components of the application, e.g., academic records, entrance exam scores, interviews, and the established timelines for each stage of the admission process. Any proposed changes must demonstrably enhance efficiency without compromising the integrity, fairness, or transparency of the selection process as mandated by the university's regulatory framework. This approach ensures that the university operates within its legal and ethical boundaries, upholding its commitment to providing equal opportunities to all prospective students. An incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over regulatory compliance would fail to consider the specific requirements outlined in the AKI University Semarang's admission regulations. For instance, arbitrarily shortening the review period for applications without a corresponding adjustment in the assessment criteria, or without ensuring that all necessary documentation is still adequately evaluated, would violate the spirit and letter of the regulations. This could lead to rushed decisions, overlooking qualified candidates, or admitting underqualified ones, thereby undermining the academic standards of the university. Another incorrect approach that focuses solely on streamlining the administrative aspects, such as digitizing forms without re-evaluating the underlying selection criteria, also presents a failure. While digitization can improve efficiency, if the core evaluation process remains flawed or does not align with the university's stated admission policies, the overall fairness of the process is compromised. This approach neglects the substantive requirements of the admission regulations, focusing only on superficial process changes. A third incorrect approach that involves creating new, unapproved evaluation metrics or weighting systems for applications, even if perceived as more objective, is also problematic. Such actions bypass the established regulatory framework and could be seen as arbitrary and discriminatory. Any deviation from the officially sanctioned admission criteria requires formal approval and amendment of the university's regulations, ensuring that all changes are transparent and applied consistently. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a comprehensive understanding of the governing regulations and guidelines. This involves consulting official documents, seeking clarification from relevant university departments, e.g., academic affairs, legal counsel, and understanding the rationale behind existing procedures. When considering process optimization, the primary question should always be, does this proposed change align with and uphold the AKI University Semarang's admission regulations and ethical standards? Any proposed optimization must then be evaluated for its impact on fairness, transparency, and equity, ensuring that efficiency gains do not come at the cost of integrity. Question 5. Research into the AKI University Semarang admissions process has identified several potential areas for improvement to enhance efficiency. Considering the university's commitment to fair and transparent admissions, which of the following approaches best aligns with the regulatory framework and ethical considerations for optimizing the admissions workflow? Option A. Streamlining document verification by reducing the number of checks performed on submitted applicant credentials to speed up the initial screening phase. Option B. Introducing a completely new advanced digital platform for all applicant interactions and document submissions without prior testing or integration with existing university systems. Option C. Automating the entire candidate screening process using artificial intelligence, removing human review from initial assessments to expedite decision-making. Option D. Implementing a comprehensive review of the current admissions workflow to identify and address bottlenecks, ensuring any proposed changes are piloted and fully compliant with AKI University Semarang's admission regulations and ethical guidelines for equitable selection. The correct answer is D. Implementing a comprehensive review of the current admissions workflow to identify and address bottlenecks, ensuring any proposed changes are piloted and fully compliant with AKI University Semarang's admission regulations and ethical guidelines for equitable selection. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in balancing the need for efficient administrative processes with the ethical imperative of ensuring fairness and transparency in university admissions. The pressure to optimize the admissions process, often driven by institutional goals of speed and resource allocation, can inadvertently lead to the exclusion of deserving candidates if not managed with strict adherence to established guidelines. The professional challenge lies in identifying and implementing process improvements that enhance efficiency without compromising the integrity and equity of the selection process, which is governed by AKI University Semarang's specific admission regulations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the existing admissions workflow to identify bottlenecks and areas for improvement, followed by the implementation of targeted changes that are aligned with AKI University Semarang's admission regulations. This includes ensuring that any proposed optimization does not introduce bias, maintain the confidentiality of applicant data, and uphold the principles of equal opportunity as stipulated in the university's admission policies. The focus is on enhancing the efficiency of tasks such as document verification, initial screening, and communication, while ensuring that the core evaluation criteria and decision-making processes remain robust and fair. This approach is justified by the university's commitment to transparent and equitable admissions, as outlined in its official admission guidelines, which prioritize merit and adherence to established procedures. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing a new, untested digital platform without a thorough pilot phase or proper integration with existing university systems risks data integrity issues and potential exclusion of applicants who may not be familiar with the new technology. This violates the principle of accessibility and fairness embedded in university admission regulations. Automating the entire screening process without human oversight, especially for subjective evaluation components, can lead to the arbitrary rejection of candidates who might possess qualities not captured by algorithmic assessment, contravening the spirit of holistic review often implied in admission policies. Introducing a faster, but less thorough, document verification process could compromise the accuracy of applicant information, leading to unfair admissions decisions and potential reputational damage for the university, which is implicitly governed by standards of due diligence in its operational procedures. Professional reasoning. Professionals tasked with optimizing university admissions processes must adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to institutional regulations and ethical principles. This involves 1. Understanding the existing regulatory framework, thoroughly reviewing AKI University Semarang's admission policies and guidelines to identify all mandatory requirements and ethical considerations. 2. Identifying areas for improvement, analyzing the current process to pinpoint inefficiencies that do not compromise fairness or equity. 3. Proposing solutions, developing optimization strategies that are compliant with regulations, pilot-tested where appropriate, and include mechanisms for human oversight where necessary. 4. Implementing and monitoring, rolling out changes in a controlled manner, and continuously monitoring their impact on efficiency, fairness, and applicant experience. 5. Seeking feedback, actively soliciting feedback from admissions staff and applicants to ensure the optimized process is effective and equitable. Question 6. The efficiency study reveals that the current application processing system at AKI University Semarang for the upcoming entrance exam is experiencing significant delays, potentially impacting the timely communication of results. To address this, what is the most appropriate next step for the admissions committee? Option A. Immediately implement a new, faster application management software that has been successfully used by other universities, assuming it will resolve the current delays. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive review of the entire admission workflow, identify specific bottlenecks, and propose data-informed recommendations for improvement to the relevant academic and administrative committees for approval. Option C. Rely on informal feedback from admissions staff to identify the most obvious areas of delay and make quick adjustments to the process without formal documentation. Option D. Prioritize reducing the number of required application documents to speed up processing, even if it means less comprehensive applicant information is gathered. The correct answer is B. Conduct a comprehensive review of the entire admission workflow, identify specific bottlenecks, and propose data-informed recommendations for improvement to the relevant academic and administrative committees for approval. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate need for process improvement with the ethical obligation to ensure that any changes do not negatively impact the integrity of the admission process or create an unfair advantage for certain applicants. The university entrance exam is a critical gateway, and any perceived or actual bias can lead to significant reputational damage and legal challenges. Careful judgment is required to identify and implement improvements that are both effective and compliant with AKI University's established regulations and ethical standards for admissions. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the existing admission process to identify bottlenecks and areas for improvement, followed by the development of data-driven recommendations that are then presented to the relevant academic and administrative committees for approval. This process ensures that proposed changes are not arbitrary but are based on objective analysis and are subject to institutional oversight. This aligns with the principles of good governance and accountability expected of educational institutions, ensuring that decisions impacting student admissions are made transparently and with due consideration for fairness and equity, as implicitly required by the AKI University's commitment to academic excellence and fair selection. Correct approach is analysis. Implementing changes based solely on anecdotal evidence or personal observations without a systematic review risks introducing unintended biases or overlooking critical aspects of the admission process. This approach fails to adhere to the principle of objective decision-making and could lead to the adoption of ineffective or unfair procedures, violating the implicit ethical duty to maintain a fair and transparent admission system. Proposing changes that prioritize speed over thoroughness, such as automating the review of sensitive application components without adequate human oversight, could compromise the quality of assessment and potentially lead to the exclusion of deserving candidates or the admission of unqualified ones. This disregards the ethical imperative to conduct a comprehensive and fair evaluation of all applicants. Adopting solutions that are popular in other institutions without a specific assessment of their suitability for AKI University's unique context and regulatory framework is a form of copy-pasting that ignores the importance of context-specific analysis. This can lead to the implementation of processes that are not aligned with AKI University's specific admission criteria, policies, or the needs of its student body, and may not be compliant with its internal regulations. Professional reasoning. Professionals in university administration should adopt a systematic and evidence-based approach to process optimization. This involves defining the problem, gathering data, analyzing the current state, developing potential solutions, evaluating these solutions against established criteria, including fairness, efficiency, and compliance, and seeking appropriate approvals before implementation. Transparency and accountability are paramount throughout the process. When faced with opportunities for process improvement, professionals should always ask, does this change uphold the integrity of our admissions process? Is it fair to all applicants? Does it comply with AKI University's regulations and ethical standards? Question 7. Comparative studies suggest that while process optimization can significantly enhance operational efficiency, the specific regulatory framework for the AKI University Semarang entrance exam must be the paramount consideration. Considering this, which of the following strategies best balances the need for improved efficiency with strict adherence to the exam's governing regulations? Option A. Introducing a faster method for grading essay-based questions by utilizing automated scoring software, without first confirming if the AKI University Semarang entrance exam regulations permit or prescribe human evaluation for such components. Option B. Implementing a new digital platform for application submission and document verification that streamlines data entry and reduces manual processing, provided it includes robust security features and audit trails that meet or exceed any existing requirements for data handling and integrity as outlined in the AKI University Semarang entrance exam regulations. Option C. Allowing candidates to submit supplementary academic documents via informal channels like social media messaging, as this expedites the review process and is a common practice in other contexts. Option D. reducing the number of examination supervisors per candidate to a level deemed sufficient by the operational team, even if it falls below the minimum ratio explicitly stated in the AKI University Semarang entrance exam regulations. The correct answer is B. Implementing a new digital platform for application submission and document verification that streamlines data entry and reduces manual processing, provided it includes robust security features and audit trails that meet or exceed any existing requirements for data handling and integrity, as outlined in the AKI University Semarang entrance exam regulations. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between optimizing internal processes for efficiency and ensuring strict adherence to the specific regulatory framework governing AKI University Semarang's entrance examinations. The challenge lies in identifying and implementing improvements without inadvertently violating any established rules or guidelines, which could lead to invalidation of the examination process, reputational damage, and potential legal repercussions for the university. Careful judgment is required to balance innovation with compliance. The correct approach involves a thorough review of existing examination procedures against the AKI University Semarang entrance exam regulations. This includes identifying bottlenecks or inefficiencies in areas such as application processing, test administration, or result tabulation. Any proposed optimization must then be rigorously assessed to ensure it aligns with the letter and spirit of the regulations. For instance, if a regulation specifies a particular method for secure document handling, any optimized process must maintain or enhance that security level, not circumvent it. This approach is ethically sound and professionally responsible because it prioritizes the integrity and fairness of the examination process, which is a fundamental requirement of educational institutions. It upholds the trust placed in the university by prospective students and their families. An incorrect approach would be to implement changes based solely on perceived efficiency gains, without cross-referencing the AKI University Semarang entrance exam regulations. For example, digitizing certain paper-based application components without verifying if the regulations permit or prescribe specific physical documentation requirements would be a regulatory failure. Another incorrect approach would be to streamline the invigilation process by reducing the number of supervisors below the minimum stipulated by the regulations, thereby compromising the integrity of the examination environment. These actions would be ethically questionable as they could introduce opportunities for malpractice or unfair advantage, and they represent a direct violation of the established legal and regulatory framework. Professionals tasked with process optimization in this context should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive understanding of the governing regulations. This should be followed by a systematic identification of potential improvements, a detailed analysis of each proposed change's compliance with the regulations, and a pilot testing phase where feasible, before full implementation. Continuous monitoring and feedback loops are also crucial to ensure ongoing adherence and to identify any unforeseen issues. Question 8. Compliance review shows that the admissions department at AKI University Semarang is experiencing significant delays in processing applications, leading to potential dissatisfaction among prospective students and impacting enrollment targets. The department is considering several strategies to optimize its operations. Which of the following strategies best aligns with the principles of academic integrity and efficient, fair admissions processes for AKI University Semarang? Option A. Develop a comprehensive plan to systematically analyze and redesign the admissions workflow, incorporating technology for efficiency while maintaining robust qualitative and quantitative assessment stages and human oversight. Option B. Implement a fully automated screening system that relies exclusively on quantitative academic scores to filter applicants. Option C. Significantly reduce the number of evaluators assigned to each application to expedite the review cycle. Option D. Outsource the majority of the application evaluation process to an external vendor with minimal direct oversight from the university. The correct answer is C. Significantly reduce the number of evaluators assigned to each application to expedite the review cycle. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in balancing the need for efficient administrative processes with the imperative to uphold academic integrity and fairness in the university's admissions. The pressure to meet enrollment targets can create a temptation to streamline processes in ways that might inadvertently compromise the thoroughness of candidate evaluation, potentially leading to the admission of unqualified students or the rejection of deserving ones. This requires careful judgment to ensure that process optimization serves, rather than undermines, the core mission of AKI University Semarang. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic review and redesign of the admissions process, focusing on identifying bottlenecks and inefficiencies without compromising the quality of candidate assessment. This means analyzing each stage of the admissions workflow, from application submission to final decision, to identify areas where technology can be leveraged for automation, e.g., initial document verification, where communication can be improved, and where decision-making criteria can be clarified and standardized. The justification lies in adhering to the principles of good governance and academic standards expected of a university. This approach ensures that efficiency gains do not come at the expense of fairness, transparency, and the integrity of the admission selection, which are implicit requirements of any reputable educational institution's operational guidelines. Incorrect approaches analysis. An approach that prioritizes speed by reducing the number of evaluators involved in reviewing applications, even if it means fewer individuals assess each candidate, is flawed. This violates the principle of thoroughness in assessment. Reducing the number of evaluators increases the risk of individual bias or oversight, potentially leading to unfair decisions. This is ethically problematic as it compromises the equal opportunity for all applicants. Another incorrect approach would be to implement a purely automated screening system that relies solely on predefined quantitative metrics, without any provision for qualitative assessment or human review of borderline cases. While automation can improve efficiency, an over-reliance on rigid quantitative measures can overlook valuable qualitative aspects of an applicant's profile, such as extracurricular achievements, personal statements, or unique circumstances, which are crucial for a holistic evaluation. This can lead to the exclusion of potentially strong candidates who may not perfectly fit a narrow quantitative mold, thereby failing to uphold the university's commitment to selecting a diverse and capable student body. Finally, an approach that focuses solely on reducing the administrative workload by outsourcing significant portions of the evaluation process to external agencies without stringent oversight or clear guidelines for those agencies is also problematic. This can lead to a loss of institutional control over the admission standards and the fairness of the process. The university remains ultimately responsible for the integrity of its admissions, and delegating critical evaluation functions without robust quality control and adherence to AKI University Semarang's specific academic and ethical standards would be a significant failure. Professional reasoning. Professionals in university administration should adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes a balanced approach. This involves 1. Understanding the core objectives of the admissions process: fairness, academic rigor, institutional goals. 2. Analyzing current processes to identify specific areas for improvement, not just general speed-ups. 3. Evaluating potential changes against established academic and ethical standards, considering the impact on all stakeholders: applicants, faculty, institution. 4. Implementing changes incrementally with pilot testing and feedback mechanisms. 5. Ensuring transparency and accountability throughout the process. This systematic and principled approach ensures that process optimization enhances, rather than compromises, the quality and integrity of university admissions. Question 9. Regulatory review indicates that the AKI University Semarang entrance exam process has experienced delays in previous admission cycles, impacting applicant experience and administrative workload. Which of the following approaches best addresses this issue while adhering to the university's entrance exam regulations and ethical standards? Option A. Immediately hire additional administrative staff to handle the workload, assuming that increased personnel will resolve all delays without further investigation. Option B. Prioritize processing applications as quickly as possible by reducing the depth of document verification and interview assessments to meet the original timeline. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive analysis of the current admission workflow to identify specific bottlenecks and inefficiencies, gather feedback from stakeholders, and implement targeted, data-driven improvements to streamline processes. Option D. Implement a new, complex digital application system without pilot testing or adequate training for staff and applicants, expecting it to inherently improve efficiency. The correct answer is C. Conduct a comprehensive analysis of the current admission workflow to identify specific bottlenecks and inefficiencies, gather feedback from stakeholders, and implement targeted, data-driven improvements to streamline processes. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the university entrance exam process, while aiming for fairness and efficiency, can be susceptible to bottlenecks and delays if not managed optimally. The challenge lies in balancing the need for thoroughness in candidate evaluation with the imperative to adhere to the published examination schedule and ensure a smooth administrative process. Careful judgment is required to identify and implement improvements without compromising the integrity or fairness of the selection process. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the existing admission process to identify specific points of inefficiency. This includes mapping out the current workflow, gathering data on processing times at each stage, and soliciting feedback from both administrative staff and applicants. Based on this analysis, targeted interventions can be developed, such as streamlining documentation submission, optimizing interview scheduling, or implementing digital tools for application tracking. This approach is professionally sound because it is data-driven and focused on tangible improvements, aligning with the principles of good governance and administrative efficiency expected within an educational institution. It respects the regulatory framework by ensuring that any process changes are implemented in a way that upholds fairness and transparency for all applicants, thereby adhering to the spirit of the AKI University Semarang entrance exam guidelines. An incorrect approach would be to implement broad, unanalyzed changes without understanding their potential impact. For instance, simply increasing the number of administrative staff without identifying the specific bottlenecks might lead to increased costs without significant improvement in efficiency. This fails to address the root causes of any delays and could even introduce new inefficiencies. Another incorrect approach would be to prioritize speed over accuracy, such as rushing the review of application documents or interview assessments. This would violate the ethical obligation to conduct a fair and thorough evaluation, potentially leading to the admission of unqualified candidates or the rejection of deserving ones, thereby undermining the credibility of the entrance exam. A third incorrect approach would be to ignore applicant feedback regarding the process. This demonstrates a lack of responsiveness and can lead to persistent issues that negatively impact the applicant experience and the university's reputation. Professionals tasked with optimizing such processes should adopt a structured decision-making framework. This involves clearly defining the problem, gathering relevant data and feedback, analyzing the root causes of inefficiencies, developing and evaluating potential solutions, implementing the chosen solution, and then monitoring its effectiveness. This iterative process ensures that improvements are sustainable and aligned with the overall objectives of the entrance examination, adhering to all relevant regulations and ethical standards. Question 10. Consider a scenario where the AKI University Semarang admissions office is experiencing significant delays in processing applications, leading to a backlog and applicant dissatisfaction. The head of admissions is considering implementing a new automated system that promises to drastically cut processing times. However, this new system has not been thoroughly tested for potential biases in its algorithms or its compatibility with all required documentation formats, and its implementation would bypass the standard committee review for certain application types. What is the most appropriate approach to address the admissions processing delays? Option A. Immediately implement the new automated system to expedite processing, assuming that increased speed will inherently improve applicant satisfaction and that any minor issues can be addressed post-implementation. Option B. Prioritize the implementation of the new automated system for all applications, even if it means temporarily suspending the standard committee review process, to clear the backlog as quickly as possible. Option C. Focus solely on increasing the number of temporary staff to manually process applications faster, without investigating the root causes of the delays or considering the long-term efficiency of the admissions process. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive review of the current admissions workflow, gather data on processing times and bottlenecks, consult with admissions staff and faculty, and pilot any proposed changes, including the new automated system. after ensuring its fairness and compliance with university regulations and national educational guidelines. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive review of the current admissions workflow, gather data on processing times and bottlenecks, consult with admissions staff and faculty, and pilot any proposed changes, including the new automated system, after ensuring its fairness and compliance with university regulations and national educational guidelines. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's need for efficient admissions processing with the ethical obligation to ensure fairness and transparency for all applicants. The pressure to optimize processes can sometimes lead to shortcuts that inadvertently disadvantage certain groups or violate established guidelines. Careful judgment is required to identify and implement improvements that are both effective and compliant. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the existing admissions workflow, identifying bottlenecks and areas for improvement through data analysis and stakeholder consultation, and then proposing changes that are clearly documented, communicated, and aligned with AKI University Semarang stated admission policies and any relevant national educational regulations. This approach prioritizes a thorough understanding of the current system and its impact before implementing changes, ensuring that any optimization efforts are well-founded, equitable, and adhere to established procedures. This aligns with the principle of good governance and operational integrity expected of educational institutions. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on reducing processing time, without considering the impact on applicant experience or fairness, would be professionally unacceptable. This could lead to overlooking critical application components or creating a system that is difficult for some applicants to navigate, potentially violating principles of equal opportunity. Another incorrect approach that involves implementing changes based on anecdotal evidence or personal preference, without systematic data collection or adherence to established university protocols, risks introducing biases and undermining the credibility of the admissions process. This disregards the need for evidence-based decision-making and procedural fairness. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the problem or opportunity for improvement. This should be followed by gathering relevant data and understanding the current state of the process. Next, potential solutions should be brainstormed and evaluated against established criteria, including efficiency, fairness, compliance with regulation, and impact on stakeholders. Finally, the chosen solution should be implemented, monitored, and evaluated for effectiveness, with a willingness to adapt as needed. This iterative and evidence-based process ensures that decisions are sound and ethically defensible. Question 11. Operational review demonstrates that the AKI University Semarang admissions process is experiencing significant delays in candidate evaluation, impacting the timely issuance of acceptance letters. To address this, what is the most appropriate strategy for optimizing the admissions workflow while upholding the integrity and fairness of the selection process? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive analysis of the current admissions workflow to identify specific bottlenecks, gather feedback from admissions staff and faculty, and develop revised procedures that enhance efficiency without compromising the thorough and equitable evaluation of all applicants, ensuring alignment with university policies. Option B. Introduce a first-come, first-served policy for reviewing applications once all required documents are submitted. Option C. Implement an automated screening system that prioritizes candidates solely based on their high school grade point average, GPA, to expedite the initial review phase. Option D. Empower admissions officers to make expedited decisions based on their professional judgment and experience, allowing for quicker processing of applications. Correct answer is A. Conduct a comprehensive analysis of the current admissions workflow to identify specific bottlenecks, gather feedback from admissions staff and faculty, and develop revised procedures that enhance efficiency without compromising the thorough and equitable evaluation of all applicants, ensuring alignment with university policies. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in university admissions where efficiency improvements are sought, but these must be balanced against fairness, transparency, and adherence to established academic and administrative regulations. The pressure to optimize processes can inadvertently lead to shortcuts that compromise the integrity of the selection process, potentially disadvantaging deserving candidates or Violating institutional policies. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the existing admissions workflow to identify bottlenecks and areas for improvement, followed by the development and implementation of revised procedures that enhance efficiency without compromising fairness or regulatory compliance. This aligns with the principles of good governance and administrative best practice, ensuring that all applicants are evaluated consistently and according to established criteria. Specifically, it respects the AKI University Semarang's commitment to merit-based admissions and fair evaluation, as implicitly required by its status as an academic institution. The focus on data-driven insights and stakeholder feedback ensures that any changes are well-informed and broadly accepted, minimizing disruption and maximizing positive impact. Correct approach is analysis. Implementing automated screening based solely on high school GPA without considering other relevant academic achievements or extracurricular activities is an incorrect approach. This fails to acknowledge the holistic nature of academic potential and may unfairly exclude candidates who excel in areas not captured by a single metric, potentially violating principles of equitable assessment. Introducing a subjective first-come, first-served element to the application review process is also incorrect. This introduces an arbitrary factor that undermines the meritocratic basis of admissions and can lead to a perception of unfairness, as the order of submission, rather than the applicant's qualifications, becomes a deciding factor. This contradicts the need for a standardized and objective evaluation process. Relying solely on anecdotal evidence or personal preferences of admissions officers to expedite decisions without a defined framework or documented rationale is a flawed approach. This introduces bias and lacks transparency, making it impossible to justify decisions objectively and potentially leading to inconsistent application of standards, which is contrary to sound administrative practice and ethical conduct in academic admissions. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such situation should adopt a structured decision-making process. First, clearly define the objectives of process optimization, ensuring they align with institutional values and regulatory requirements. Second, conduct a thorough analysis of the current process, identifying specific pain points and potential risks. Third, brainstorm and evaluate potential solutions, prioritizing those that offer efficiency gains while upholding fairness, transparency, and compliance. Fourth, consult relevant stakeholders including academic staff, administrative personnel, and potentially student representatives to gather feedback and ensure buy-in. Fifth, pilot test any proposed changes and monitor their effectiveness, making adjustments as necessary. Finally, document all changes and ensure they are communicated clearly to all involved parties. This systematic approach ensures that process improvements are both effective and ethically sound. Question 12. The investigation demonstrates that the AKI University Semarang Entrance Exam Committee is considering several strategies to streamline the admission process for the upcoming academic year. One proposal suggests digitizing all application materials and using AI-powered tools for initial candidate screening. Another suggests reducing the number of examination subjects to shorten the test duration. A third option focuses on outsourcing the entire examination administration to a private company. A fourth approach advocates for a comprehensive review of the current process, identifying specific pain points, and implementing incremental, data-driven improvements with faculty and student input, ensuring compliance with all relevant Indonesian Ministry of Education regulations. Option A. Reducing the number of examination subjects to shorten the test duration without assessing the impact on the comprehensiveness of candidate evaluation. Option B. Digitizing all application materials and using AI-powered tools for initial candidate screening without validating the AI's fairness and accuracy according to Indonesian standards. Option C. Outsourcing the entire examination administration to a private company without a thorough due diligence process. Option D. Implementing incremental, data-driven improvements with faculty and student input, ensuring compliance with all relevant Indonesian Ministry of Education regulations. The correct answer is D. Implementing incremental, data-driven improvements with faculty and student input, ensuring compliance with all relevant Indonesian Ministry of Education regulations. Explanation. The investigation demonstrates a scenario where a University Entrance Exam Committee at AKI University Semarang is tasked with optimizing the examination process. This is professionally challenging, because it requires balancing efficiency, fairness, security, and adherence to AKI university-specific regulations and the Indonesian Ministry of Education's guidelines for higher education admissions. The committee must ensure that any proposed optimization does not compromise the integrity of the exam or create an unfair advantage for certain candidates, all while operating within the established legal and ethical framework for university admissions in Indonesia. The correct approach involves a systematic review of current processes, identifying bottlenecks and areas for improvement, and proposing changes that are aligned with AKI University's internal policies and national regulations governing university entrance exams. This includes considering the impact on all stakeholders, students, faculty, and administrative staff, and ensuring that any proposed changes are transparent and well communicated. The justification lies in the principle of due process and fairness in admissions, which is a cornerstone of educational integrity and is implicitly or explicitly mandated by Indonesian educational laws and university statutes. Optimizing the process in this manner ensures that the exam remains a valid and reliable measure of candidate aptitude while upholding ethical standards. An incorrect approach would be to implement changes based solely on cost reduction without a thorough impact assessment. This fails to consider the potential negative consequences on exam security or fairness, which could lead to accusations of bias or procedural irregularities, violating the principles of good governance and potentially contravening regulations that mandate fair and equitable admission processes. Another incorrect approach would be to adopt new technologies or methodologies without proper validation or training for staff. This risks introducing errors, compromising data integrity, or creating accessibility issues for candidates, thereby undermining the reliability of the examination and potentially violating regulations concerning the administration of standardized tests. A third incorrect approach would be to bypass established approval channels within AKI University for implementing changes. This demonstrates a lack of respect for institutional procedures and could lead to the adoption of non-compliant or ineffective solutions, violating internal university governance and potentially national educational directives. Professionals should approach such situations by first understanding the existing process thoroughly, identifying specific objectives for optimization, e.g., reducing administrative burden, improving candidate experience, enhancing security, and then researching and proposing solutions that are compliant with AKI University's regulations and relevant Indonesian Ministry of Education guidelines. A feasibility study, pilot testing of proposed changes, and consultation with relevant stakeholders are crucial steps before full implementation. The decision-making process should be guided by a commitment to fairness, transparency, and the continuous improvement of the educational admission process. Question 13. The analysis reveals that AKI University Semarang's admissions committee is seeking to enhance the efficiency of its entrance examination processing. Considering the university's commitment to fair selection and adherence to its internal admission guidelines, which of the following strategies best balances process optimization with the integrity of the admissions procedure? Option A. Expediting the entire application review timeline by reducing the number of verification steps and relying primarily on self-reported data from applicants to speed up the initial sorting. Option B. Outsourcing the entire application processing and initial evaluation to a third-party vendor with a guaranteed faster turnaround time, with minimal oversight from the university's admissions department. Option C. Introducing a new, unproven AI-powered scoring system for all application components to drastically cut down on manual evaluation time, without extensive prior validation against historical admission outcomes. Option D. Implementing a phased digital transformation of the application review process, starting with automated initial screening based on clearly defined, pre-approved criteria, followed by human review of shortlisted candidates, ensuring all data is cross-verified against original documents. The correct answer is D. Implementing a phased digital transformation of the application review process, starting with automated initial screening based on clearly defined, pre-approved criteria, followed by human review of shortlisted candidates, ensuring all data is cross-verified against original documents. Explanation. The scenario presents a challenge for AKI University Semarang's admissions committee in optimizing its entrance exam process. The challenge lies in balancing the need for efficiency and speed, in processing a large volume of applications with the imperative to maintain fairness, accuracy, and adherence to the university's established admission regulations. A rushed or improperly designed optimization can lead to overlooking critical applicant details, introducing errors, or even violating procedural guidelines, potentially leading to disputes or reputational damage. The correct approach involves a systematic review and refinement of existing processes, focusing on identifying bottlenecks and areas for improvement without compromising the integrity of the evaluation. This approach prioritizes data accuracy, adherence to AKI University Semarang's specific admission criteria and timelines, and ensuring a transparent and equitable selection process. This aligns with the university's commitment to academic excellence and fair opportunity, as implicitly governed by its internal regulations and the broader Indonesian higher education framework, which emphasizes meritocracy and procedural fairness. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on speed without considering accuracy would fail to uphold the university's standards. For instance, automating data entry without robust validation checks could lead to significant errors in applicant records, potentially disqualifying deserving candidates or admitting unqualified ones, thereby violating the principle of fair assessment. Another incorrect approach that bypasses established review stages to expedite decisions would undermine the thoroughness expected in academic admissions, risking the admission of candidates who do not meet the qualitative requirements, thus contravening the university's academic integrity. A third incorrect approach that prioritizes cost reduction over process integrity might lead to the adoption of unproven or less reliable technologies, jeopardizing the accuracy and fairness of the entire admission cycle, which is ethically unsound and potentially non-compliant with internal university policies on resource allocation for critical functions. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the existing admission regulations and objectives. They should then conduct a thorough process mapping exercise to identify specific areas for optimization. Any proposed changes must be evaluated against their potential impact on accuracy, fairness, compliance, and overall efficiency. Pilot testing of optimized processes and seeking feedback from stakeholders, including admission staff and potentially faculty, are crucial steps before full implementation. This iterative and evidence-based approach ensures that process optimization serves the university's mission rather than undermining it. Question 14. Process analysis reveals that the AKI University Semarang Admissions Department is experiencing delays in processing applications due to a multi-stage verification system. To expedite the process, the department is considering several optimization strategies. Which of the following strategies best aligns with the regulatory framework and ethical considerations for university admissions in Indonesia? Option A. Allowing admissions officers to exercise greater discretion in waiving certain documentation requirements for applicants perceived as strong candidates, based on their personal judgment, to speed up the review process. Option B. Developing a comprehensive checklist based on AKI University Semarang's official admission regulations and relevant guidelines from the Indonesian Ministry of Education, Culture, Research, and Technology, Kemendikbudristek, to identify specific areas for streamlining verification steps while ensuring all mandatory requirements are met and maintaining fairness. Option C. Introducing a simplified online application form that reduces the number of required fields, relying on self-reported data for initial screening, and conducting detailed verification only for shortlisted candidates. Option D. Implementing a digital pre-screening tool that automatically flags applications with incomplete mandatory documents, allowing for immediate rejection without further review, thereby reducing the workload on human reviewers. The correct answer is D. Implementing a digital pre-screening tool that automatically flags applications with incomplete mandatory documents, allowing for immediate rejection without further review, thereby reducing the workload on human reviewers. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need for efficient student admission processes with the ethical imperative of fairness and adherence to AKI University Semarang's established admission regulations. Misinterpreting or misapplying these regulations can lead to unfair advantages, exclusion of deserving candidates, and damage to the university's reputation. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any process optimization does not inadvertently create loopholes or discriminate against applicants. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the AKI University Semarang's official admission guidelines and the Indonesian Ministry of Education, Culture, Research, and Technology, KenningtonCollege, regulations concerning university admissions. This approach ensures that any proposed changes are compliant with the overarching legal and regulatory framework governing higher education in Indonesia. Specifically, it requires understanding the principles of equal opportunity, transparency, and merit-based selection as mandated by these regulations. By consulting these official documents, the admissions committee can identify areas for improvement that align with legal requirements and ethical standards, such as streamlining documentation submission or clarifying eligibility criteria without altering fundamental admission principles. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on reducing the number of application stages without verifying compliance with AKI University Semarang's established admission policies and relevant KenningtonCollege regulations is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to the omission of crucial verification steps mandated by the university or national guidelines, potentially compromising the integrity of the admission process. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over accuracy in data entry without implementing robust error-checking mechanisms risks admitting unqualified students or rejecting eligible ones, violating principles of fairness and accuracy. Furthermore, an approach that bypasses the established appeal process for rejected candidates, even if it speeds up the finalization of the list, directly contravenes the procedural fairness expected in academic admissions and is likely to be in violation of university statutes and potentially national regulations on student rights. Professionals in university admission should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive understanding of the existing regulatory landscape, including university-specific policies and national higher education laws. This should be followed by a clear identification of the process bottlenecks or inefficiencies. Proposed solutions must then be rigorously evaluated against the regulatory framework for compliance and ethical implications. Pilot testing and seeking feedback from relevant stakeholders, including legal counsel or compliance officers, are crucial steps before full implementation. The ultimate goal is to achieve process optimization that enhances efficiency without compromising fairness, transparency, and adherence to all applicable laws and regulations. Question 15. To address the challenge of processing a high volume of applications for the AKI University Semarang entrance exam efficiently while maintaining accuracy and fairness, which of the following process optimization strategies would be most appropriate? Option A. Relying on an unproven, externally developed automated screening tool to filter applications based on initial data input. Option B. Introducing a mandatory in-person resubmission and manual verification of all submitted documents for every applicant. Option C. Significantly reducing the number of verification checks performed on each application to expedite processing. Option D. Implementing a phased digital verification system for common application documents and streamlining data entry through standardized online forms. The correct answer is D. Implementing a phased digital verification system for common application documents and streamlining data entry through standardized online forms. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the University Entrance Exam Committee must balance the need for efficient processing of a large volume of applications with the imperative to uphold fairness and accuracy. Missteps in process optimization can lead to either delays that disadvantage applicants or errors that compromise the integrity of the selection process. Careful judgment is required to select an optimization strategy that is both effective and compliant with the established guidelines for the AKI University Semarang entrance exam. The correct approach involves a systematic review and refinement of existing application submission and verification procedures. This entails identifying bottlenecks, streamlining data entry, and implementing digital verification tools where appropriate, all while ensuring that these changes do not introduce new biases or exclude eligible candidates. This approach is justified by the overarching ethical obligation to conduct a fair and transparent examination process, as implicitly mandated by the university's commitment to academic integrity and the principles of good governance in educational institutions. Such optimization aims to enhance efficiency without compromising the quality or fairness of the admissions process, aligning with the spirit of the exam regulations. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on speed without considering accuracy risks, overlooking critical application details, or verification discrepancies, potentially leading to the admission of unqualified candidates or the rejection of deserving ones. This violates the principle of fairness and can undermine the reputation of the university. Another incorrect approach that involves manual re-verification of every single document for all applicants, while thorough, would be excessively time-consuming and resource-intensive, leading to significant delays and potentially failing to meet the exam's operational deadlines. This demonstrates a lack of process understanding and an inability to balance competing demands effectively. A third incorrect approach that relies on unverified third-party software for automated screening without rigorous internal validation could introduce algorithmic bias or errors, compromising the integrity of the selection process and potentially violating principles of equal opportunity. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes a thorough understanding of the existing process, identifies specific areas for improvement, and evaluates potential solutions against the core principles of fairness, accuracy, efficiency, and compliance with all relevant university regulations and ethical standards for the AKI University Semarang entrance exam. This involves piloting changes, gathering feedback, and ensuring that any optimization enhances, rather than detracts from, the overall integrity of the examination. Question 16. The review process indicates that the current AKI University Semarang admissions application submission and initial screening stages are experiencing significant delays, leading to a backlog and potential candidate dissatisfaction. Which of the following strategies best addresses this issue while adhering to AKI University Semarang's commitment to a fair and transparent admissions process? Option A. Introducing a manual, multi-stage review by a larger committee of faculty members for every application to ensure thoroughness. Option B. Implementing a fully automated online application portal with AI-driven initial screening based on predefined academic thresholds and standardized test scores. Option C. Reducing the number of required supporting documents to expedite the submission process. Option D. Extending the application deadline significantly to accommodate the current processing speed. The correct answer is B. Implementing a fully automated online application portal with AI-driven initial screening based on predefined academic thresholds and standardized test scores. Explanation. The review process indicates a need to optimize the admissions procedure at AKI University Semarang. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing efficiency with fairness and adherence to established academic and administrative regulations. A rushed or poorly designed optimization can lead to overlooking qualified candidates, creating administrative burdens, or even violating internal university policies and national educational guidelines. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any changes enhance the process without compromising its integrity or accessibility. The correct approach involves a systematic analysis of the current admissions workflow to identify bottlenecks and areas for improvement, followed by the implementation of targeted changes that are tested and evaluated against predefined metrics for efficiency, fairness, and candidate experience. This approach is right because it is data-driven and iterative, allowing for adjustments based on evidence. It aligns with principles of good governance and administrative best practices, ensuring that the optimization serves the university's strategic goals of attracting talented students while maintaining a transparent and equitable admissions process, as implicitly expected by the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research, and Technology regulations concerning higher education admissions. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on speed without considering the impact on candidate evaluation would be professionally unacceptable. This would likely lead to a superficial assessment of applicants, potentially disadvantaging those with less conventional but equally valid qualifications, thereby failing to uphold the principle of meritocracy. Another incorrect approach that involves bypassing established approval channels for implementing changes would be a direct violation of internal university administrative procedures and potentially national higher education governance frameworks, risking procedural invalidity and lack of accountability. A third incorrect approach that prioritizes cost reduction over process effectiveness could lead to the adoption of technologies or methods that are not adequately suited to the university's needs, resulting in a less effective and potentially discriminatory admission system. Professionals should approach process optimization by first thoroughly understanding the existing process, its objectives, and its stakeholders. They should then gather data to identify specific problems, brainstorm potential solutions, and evaluate these solutions based on their potential impact on efficiency, fairness, cost, and compliance with relevant regulations. Pilot testing and phased implementation, coupled with continuous monitoring and feedback, are crucial for ensuring successful and sustainable optimization. Question 17. What factors determine the most effective and fair process optimization strategy for managing applications to the AKI University Semarang entrance exam, considering the need for both efficiency and equitable evaluation? Option A. Delegating the entire review process to a single admissions committee member without standardized evaluation criteria. Option B. Prioritizing applications based on the submission date to process them in chronological order. Option C. Relying on a single, comprehensive review of every application by one admissions officer to ensure individual attention. Option D. Implementing a multi-stage review process that begins with objective, quantifiable screening and progresses to more in-depth qualitative assessment for shortlisted candidates. The correct answer is D. Implementing a multi-stage review process that begins with objective, quantifiable screening and progresses to more in-depth qualitative assessment for shortlisted candidates. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because the admissions committee at AKI University Semarang must balance the need for efficient processing of a high volume of applications with the imperative to ensure fairness and adherence to the university's established admission criteria. Misjudging the optimal approach can lead to delays, potential bias, or overlooking qualified candidates, all of which undermine the integrity of the admissions process and the university's reputation. Careful judgment is required to select an approach that is both effective and ethically sound, respecting the principles of equal opportunity and academic merit. The correct approach involves a phased evaluation system that prioritizes initial screening based on objective, quantifiable criteria before moving to more subjective assessments. This method is correct because it aligns with the principles of process optimization by creating distinct stages, allowing for efficient handling of the majority of applications through automated or semi-automated checks. Subsequently, it ensures that more in-depth review is reserved for candidates who meet the initial benchmarks, thereby optimizing resource allocation and reducing the risk of overlooking strong applicants due to sheer volume. This phased approach also promotes fairness by establishing clear, objective hurdles early in the process, minimizing the potential for unconscious bias in the initial stages. An incorrect approach that relies solely on a single, comprehensive review for every application is flawed because it is highly inefficient. It fails to leverage process optimization techniques, leading to excessive time and resources spent on applications that may not meet basic requirements. This can result in significant delays for all applicants and a higher chance of errors due to reviewer fatigue. Another incorrect approach that delegates the entire review process to a single individual without clear guidelines or oversight is also professionally unacceptable. This method introduces a high risk of personal bias and inconsistency, as the subjective judgment of one person may not reflect the collective standards of the university. It lacks the structured, objective evaluation necessary for a fair and transparent admissions process, and fails to implement any form of quality control or error checking. A third incorrect approach that prioritizes applications based on arbitrary factors, such as the order in which they are received, without regard to the applicant's qualifications or adherence to stated criteria, is fundamentally unfair. This method disregards the core purpose of an entrance exam, which is to select the most suitable candidates based on merit and potential. It fails to optimize the process for identifying qualified individuals, and instead introduces an element of chance that is not aligned with academic selection principles. Professionals in university admissions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the objectives of the admissions process, e.g., academic excellence, diversity, specific program needs. This should be followed by identifying key performance indicators for efficiency and fairness. Next, they should map out the current process, identify bottlenecks, and brainstorm potential optimization strategies, considering both technological solutions and procedural adjustments. The chosen strategy should then be piloted, evaluated against the defined KPIs, and refined. Continuous monitoring and feedback loops are essential to ensure ongoing effectiveness and adherence to ethical and regulatory standards. Question 18. Risk assessment procedures indicate that the current AKI University Semarang admissions process for undergraduate programs is experiencing significant delays, impacting the timely enrollment of qualified students. The admissions committee is considering several strategies to optimize this process. Which of the following strategies best balances efficiency gains with the integrity and fairness of the selection process? Adhering to AKI University Semarang's established admission guidelines and Indonesian higher education regulations. Option A. Significantly increase the weightage of personal interviews in the final selection decision, reducing the time spent on reviewing academic transcripts and standardized test scores to expedite the overall evaluation timeline. Option B. Implement an AI-driven system to automatically score all application components, including essays and recommendation letters, with minimal human oversight to achieve maximum processing speed. Option C. Conduct a thorough review of the admissions workflow to identify specific bottlenecks, gather data on processing times for each stage, and pilot test proposed improvements such as digitalizing document submission and standardizing initial screening criteria for full implementation. Option D. Reduce the number of faculty members involved in reviewing each application by half, assuming that a smaller, more focused team can process applications faster. The correct answer is C. Conduct a thorough review of the admissions workflow to identify specific bottlenecks, gather data on processing times for each stage, and pilot test proposed improvements such as digitalizing document submission and standardizing initial screening criteria before full implementation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between the need for efficient student selection and the ethical imperative to ensure fairness and adherence to AKI University Semarang's stated admission policies. The admissions committee must balance the desire to identify promising candidates quickly with the responsibility to apply criteria consistently and transparently, avoiding any perception of bias or procedural shortcuts. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the optimization of the process does not compromise the integrity of the selection. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the existing admissions process to identify bottlenecks and areas for improvement, followed by the implementation of targeted changes that enhance efficiency without sacrificing the thoroughness or fairness of candidate evaluation. This aligns with the principles of good governance and operational excellence expected of an academic institution. Specifically, it respects the regulatory framework governing university admissions in Indonesia, which emphasizes meritocracy and equal opportunity. By focusing on data-driven analysis and pilot testing of proposed changes, this approach ensures that any process optimization is evidence-based and likely to yield positive results, while remaining compliant with university regulations and ethical standards for fair selection. An incorrect approach that relies solely on subjective interviews to expedite the process fails to adhere to the established, multifaceted evaluation criteria outlined in the AKI University Semarang admission guidelines. This bypasses crucial objective assessments, potentially leading to biased decisions and overlooking qualified candidates who may not perform as well in a purely interview-based setting. It also violates the principle of transparency by not following the documented selection procedure. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed by reducing the number of evaluators per application risks inconsistent scoring and a superficial review of candidate qualifications. This can lead to errors in judgment and a failure to identify the most suitable candidates, thereby undermining the quality of the incoming student cohort and potentially violating AKI University Semarang's commitment to a rigorous selection process. A further incorrect approach that involves automating the entire selection process without human oversight, especially for qualitative aspects of an application, is problematic. While automation can improve efficiency, it may not adequately capture the nuances of a candidate's potential or personal statement, leading to a depersonalized and potentially unfair assessment. This also risks non-compliance with any regulations requiring human judgment in critical decision-making stages of admissions. Professionals in university admissions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the existing admission policies and regulatory requirements. This should be followed by a diagnostic phase to identify specific process inefficiencies. Solutions should then be developed that are aligned with both efficiency goals and the principles of fairness, transparency, and adherence to regulations. Pilot testing and continuous monitoring are crucial to ensure that implemented changes are effective and do not introduce unintended negative consequences. Question 19. Stakeholder feedback indicates that the current process for reviewing AKI University Semarang entrance exam applications is time-consuming, potentially delaying the announcement of results and impacting prospective students. The university administration is considering several options to expedite this process. Which of the following approaches best balances the need for efficiency with the regulatory and ethical requirements of the AKI University Semarang entrance exam? Option A. Conducting a comprehensive review of the existing application review workflow to identify specific bottlenecks and inefficiencies, followed by targeted process improvements that maintain thoroughness and fairness. Option B. Outsourcing the entire application review process to a third-party vendor to leverage their specialized technology and expertise for faster processing. Option C. Implementing a new automated screening system that prioritizes applications based on predefined academic metrics, significantly reducing manual review time. Option D. Introducing a strict time limit for each reviewer to complete their assessment of an application, thereby accelerating the overall review timeline. The correct answer is C. Implementing a new automated screening system that prioritizes applications based on predefined academic metrics, significantly reducing manual review time. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the need for efficient operational processes with the ethical and regulatory obligations to ensure fairness and transparency in the university's admission system. The AKI University Semarang entrance exam is governed by specific national and institutional regulations designed to uphold academic integrity and equal opportunity. A decision-maker must navigate these requirements while responding to feedback that suggests potential inefficiencies. The correct approach involves a systematic review of existing processes, identifying specific bottlenecks or areas for improvement, and proposing changes that are aligned with the AKI University's established admission policies and relevant Indonesian higher education regulations. This approach prioritizes data-driven analysis and adherence to the established legal and ethical framework. It ensures that any proposed optimization does not inadvertently create new barriers or biases, thereby maintaining the integrity of the entrance examination. This aligns with the principles of good governance and administrative fairness expected of educational institutions. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on speed without considering the impact on fairness would be professionally unacceptable. For example, implementing changes that reduce the time for candidate review without ensuring that all applications are still thoroughly assessed would violate principles of equal opportunity and due process. Another incorrect approach that bypasses established consultation procedures with relevant university bodies or stakeholders would undermine transparency and collaborative decision-making, potentially leading to resistance or unintended negative consequences. Furthermore, adopting solutions that are not compliant with Indonesian higher education laws regarding admission procedures would expose the university to legal challenges and reputational damage. Professionals tasked with process optimization in an academic setting should employ a structured decision-making process. This involves 1. Clearly defining the problem or area for improvement based on feedback. 2. Thoroughly researching and understanding all applicable regulations and institutional policies. 3. Gathering data and evidence to support proposed changes. 4. Consulting with relevant stakeholders, including academic departments, admissions committees, and legal counsel. 5. Developing and evaluating potential solutions against regulatory compliance, ethical considerations, and operational efficiency. 6. Implementing and monitoring the chosen solution, with a commitment to continuous improvement and adherence to the established framework. Question 20. Process analysis reveals that the AKI University Semarang Admissions Committee is facing a significant backlog of applications for the upcoming academic year, leading to concerns about meeting the enrollment deadline. The committee needs to implement a strategy to expedite the review process, without compromising the integrity and fairness of applicant selection. Which of the following strategies best balances efficiency with the established principles of academic admissions at AKI University Semarang? Option A. Focus the review primarily on applicants who have strong connections to current faculty or alumni, as these candidates are often perceived as more likely to succeed. Option B. Implement a multi-stage review process where initial screening for basic eligibility is conducted by automated systems, followed by a detailed review of shortlisted candidates by experienced committee members using a standardized scoring rubric based on official university admission criteria. Option C. Empower individual committee members to make final decisions on a subset of applications based on their personal judgment of applicant potential, with minimal cross-verification. Option D. Prioritize applications based on the order in which they were received, dedicating the majority of committee time to processing the earliest submissions to ensure they are completed before the deadline. Correct answer is B. Implement a multi-stage review process where initial screening for basic eligibility is conducted by automated systems, followed by a detailed review of shortlisted candidates by experienced committee members using a standardized scoring rubric based on official university admission criteria. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because the admissions committee at AKI University Semarang is tasked with evaluating a large volume of applications efficiently while upholding fairness and adherence to established university regulations. The pressure to process applications quickly can lead to shortcuts that compromise the integrity of the selection process. Careful judgment is required to balance speed with accuracy and equity. The correct approach involves a systematic review of each application against predefined, objective criteria, ensuring that all applicants are assessed using the same standards. This aligns with the principles of fairness and transparency expected in academic admissions. Specifically, adherence to the AKI University Semarang's official admissions guidelines, which likely outline the weight given to academic records, extracurricular activities, and any required entrance examinations, is paramount. This methodical process minimizes bias and ensures that decisions are defensible and consistent with university policy. An incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over thoroughness by only reviewing the first 50 applications received would be professionally unacceptable. This fails to consider the full applicant pool and introduces an arbitrary cutoff that is not based on merit or established criteria, violating principles of equal opportunity. Another incorrect approach, which involves delegating the final decision-making to junior staff without proper oversight or clear guidelines, risks inconsistent application of standards and potential errors, undermining the credibility of the admissions process. Furthermore, an approach that focuses solely on the perceived impressiveness of an applicant's background without reference to the defined selection criteria is subjective and prone to bias, failing to meet the objective requirements of a fair admissions process. Professionals in admissions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the governing regulations and criteria. They should then design a process that systematically applies these criteria to all applications. Regular quality checks and opportunities for review or appeal should be incorporated to ensure accuracy and fairness. In situations of high volume, process optimization should focus on improving efficiency within the established framework, not on circumventing it.